Hey guys, so welcome to the next video in our series, and like it says on the paper, we're going to be focusing on Europe after the fall of Rome. So the last time that we discussed Europe was in reference to the Roman Empire. We said that the Roman Empire was one of the most successful, wealthiest, longest-lasting empires in history. And at the time, it was pretty comparable to what was happening in China with the Han Dynasty. But both of these empires end up collapsing. They expand too far. They get pressured from outside forces. The Germanic tribes in the case of Europe and the Roman Empire, and the Xiongnu in the case of the Han Dynasty in China. But what we've been focusing on in this next time period, the post-classical age, is really, we've ignored Europe altogether, and we've really just been focusing on what's happening in Africa and Asia. And this is for a good reason, right? Because basically, in the post-classical age, you have two major things going on. I guess I'm in reverse, so I guess it should be that way. Two major things going on. In Asia and Africa, what we've seen is that the post-classical age is a time, it's like the time for Asia and Africa. Basically, this is the golden age of the Islamic Caliphate. This is the golden age of the Tang and the Song dynasties. And in large part, this is possible because of the expansion of these trade routes. Basically, you know, in China, for example, China re-centralizes with the Tang dynasty, and it then starts engaging in more of this Indian Ocean trade, again, to increase its prestige. But at the same time, we have the Islamic caliphates forming over in the Middle East. And these caliphates are also supporting trade, and Arabic merchants, traders, are exploring through these Indian Ocean trade routes, as well as the Trans-Saharan trade routes in Africa. And the end result of this is, by the end of the post-classical age, you have this web of trade connections where basically someone in West Africa, in the Kingdom of Mali, is able to get access to goods, cottons, dyes, spices from India, silks and porcelain from China. And then on the flip side, the Chinese economy is depending on gold from West Africa to have enough currency to go around. It's basically these trade networks, the Trans-Saharan, Indian Ocean, the Silk Roads, these trade networks connect these civilizations in Africa and Asia so much that these places are able to get access to goods from all around the world, which leads to a great amount of wealth. They don't have to try to produce everything themselves. They can rely on one another for the things that they need. And this frees them to have, essentially, to develop these golden ages, for the Chinese to invent, incredible things like the magnetic compass. Has a huge effect on sea exploration. For the Caliphate to invent algebra, which obviously transforms the way that we think about the world, the way that we do math. On the flip side, what's happening in Europe is totally different. So the reason we haven't talked about what happened in Europe up to this point is because it's really a contrast to what we see happening in Asia and Africa at the same time. So we're going to zoom into the Roman Empire. To see what's going on first. Let's do this. Right? Can I do... Nope, that's not what I wanted. I guess we'll do that. Okay. Heyo. All right. So the last time we talked about Rome, we said it expanded so much that the Roman Empire was having trouble controlling the amount of territory that they conquered. And so what they do is they end up dividing the Roman Empire into two sections. The Western Roman Empire over here, and then the Eastern Roman Empire over here in this section here. And basically, they divide the empire into two, and they give two different capitals in these two sections. So in the West, not surprisingly, they maintain the capital at Rome. So Rome continues to be the capital of the Western Roman Empire. And then in the Eastern Roman Empire, they make Constantinople the capital, and that's right here. You can see that right there. So I'm just going to jot down. By the way, guys, take notes in the way that makes sense to you. And even if I'm not writing something down, it's a good idea to, I'll make it very obvious when I'm emphasizing a key point, something that is really important. Even if I don't write it down, process your thoughts and organize your thoughts in such a way that it's going to be helpful for you when you go back and review it. For me, I'm just going to say, Rome divides into Western and the Eastern Empire, and then here we have Rome, and then here we have Constantinople. All right. So the reality is that when the empire divides, we learned that Rome collapses in large part because they get invaded by these Germanic tribes, and that was one part. But also because it just got too big that they couldn't control their territory. However, Western Europe, the Western Roman Empire, this ended up collapsing. This collapses. The Eastern Roman Empire continues on. It maintains its centralization. It continues to be centralized. And we then start referring to it as the Byzantine Empire. It's essentially just the Roman Empire, but it continues on, and we refer to it historically as the Byzantine or the Byzantium Empire. And so both of these sides, the Western and the Eastern Roman Empire, they're both invaded by Germanic tribes. You guys can see this on this map here. Basically what this is showing is as these tribes are moving in, so in the green it's the Huns, the red and the blue are both these Germanic tribes. But these tribes invade both the Western Roman Empire, and that's what you're seeing over here with Spain and then down into Rome, as well as the Eastern Roman Empire. I mean, you can see that Constantinople is being attacked by the Visigoths. The Huns are invading into part of this territory as well. So in spite of this fact, the Western Roman Empire collapses. It completely falls to these forces, whereas the Eastern Roman Empire continues on. And so the question becomes, why is that? Like, why is it that one side continues on for another 1,000 years, whereas the other side ends up completely falling? And really, this comes down to two main factors. So, I'm just processing. Why does Western Europe collapse while Eastern Europe maintains centralized rule? And like I said, this really comes down to two factors. First is a strategic location for trade. And second Second, it comes down to defensibility. How easily can you defend these territories? So, to zoom in a little bit, let's focus first on the Eastern Roman Empire, which again we call the Byzantine Empire. So we'll focus on that first. So going back to this first map here, when Rome was divided, we learned briefly about one of the most famous Roman emperors. His name was Constantine. And he basically moves Rome's capital from Rome itself over here to the city that was called Byzantium. It was a Greek city-state established, several hundred years earlier. But he moves the capital over here to Byzantium and renames it Constantinople. Basically names it after himself. Emperor Constantine, Constantinople. When you're the emperor, you can do those kinds of things. So Constantinople has two major advantages. The capital, Constantinople. Constantinople has two major advantages. First, it's at the crossroads of some of the most important trade routes in the world, and we'll see this in a second. So going to this map here. All right, so we've shifted our focus a little bit. Constantinople is over here. This is the Mediterranean. Here's Arabia. This is Africa down here. India is down here in this part. And then China is over here this way, and basically over in this section of the map. Basically, what this map is showing you are different important trade routes in the post-classical age. So you can see like the Indian Ocean trade routes would be down in this section. The Trans-Saharan trade routes would be over here. These are the Silk Roads up here. And basically, if you're trying to get goods from anywhere in Asia to anywhere in Europe or up here in Russia, like this area up here, it goes through Constantinople. It's just a natural crossing point for trade. So for example, start here in India, come over here to Africa, maybe I stop by the Swahili city-states, and I want to get this up into the Mediterranean. So you sail up the Red Sea, cross the canal into the Mediterranean. Well, there, like, where do you unload your goods? And the natural decision, like the natural place to drop those goods off is Constantinople. You basically sail across the Mediterranean, stop here, and when you get there, you're going to have goods from Persia because of the Silk Roads, from China because of the Silk Roads, and so on. So it is this natural crossing point between the Silk Roads, Indian Ocean trade, and also if you wanted to move goods from West Africa through the Trans-Saharan trade routes, probably through Alexandria or Cairo, up here to Russia, again, you would have to move through Constantinople up into the Black Sea and then move them up from there. So Constantinople really is this, it's at a crossroads for trade. And this has a couple really important effects.